All right, everybody. We're going to give everybody a couple seconds to get connected here real fast before we get started with what? I have no idea. It's going to be a completely unplanned aftershock. Uh, normally I got a little bit of a plan before I do these. Some ideas of some things I want to talk about. But today it's completely ad lib. So, it's kind of funny. For years, it was novel enough just to have a radio show, just to come in and do a radio show. And so, I didn't do a lot of planning for each show. I just kind of came in and did the show. So for years and years, I would just come in and sit down in the chair. I had no idea what I was going to talk about until 5 minutes before I sat in the chair, and I go. And like a snot nosed kid, I was real proud of the fact I'm so good I can sit down 5 minutes before the show and just go. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, if I don't plan my show out, I will wander everywhere. I'll just diarrhea of the mouth all over the place and won't get anything accomplished, won't get anything covered, won't be entertaining, won't be funny, won't be fun. So I actually have plans for shows now. So normally I've got at least three things I want to talk about on an aftershock typically, and then I go through the three things. But today, I don't know. We could talk about Monster Jam, I guess. But so whatever you guys want to talk about during the aftershock today, go ahead and write it in the comments down there. And then as we go through it here today, if I have anything I can add about it, I will. But otherwise, we'll just kind of talk to you about what's going on in the service centers and around the times at Schrock here. All right, so we got Mary. Welcome in, Mary. Randy's back. Mitch is here as well. Good to have you. Deborah. Hot coffee this morning for Deborah. I like it. Buffering a bit. Yeah, I can't help it. All right. Thor, Disney exec who helped craft the company's response to Florida's parental rights law quits after 3 months, replaced by... Yeah, I saw that, Ron. It was like one of those stories. For those of you who aren't aware of what he's talking about, the executive who was responsible for handling the Disney's response to this whole Florida law thing, well, he ended up resigning. I mean, he was going to get fired. Let's put it that way. Disney needed a scalp because they lost their special tax status. It's going to cost them hundreds of millions of dollars a year. It's going to cause them slower production on rides. They were their own county. And this is something I was talking to one of my employees, and he didn't understand what that meant. Like, you're your own county. What do you mean? Like, that means they have their own fire department. They have their own police department. They have their own permitting. So when they want to build anything, they do all their own permitting. Literally, all the inspectors are Disney employees. They collect taxes from the people who live in the county. They can go out, they can issue bonds. Like Ron DeSantis pointed out, they could put a nuclear power plant at Disney World, and we would have no say. They're their own government, and that's what was taken away from them by the state of Florida. Now, there's been a couple. Stepping back from this, is it okay that a company is specifically targeted with legislation due to their political stance? Now, you can make the argument with Disney that they were given something special that other companies aren't given. Universal doesn't get to be their own government. They have to deal with all the normal permitting and everything else. They don't get all the tax breaks and everything else. Disney was basically being subsidized by the state of Florida. Well, now that's gone. So are we really penalizing Disney, or are we just putting an even playing field without government picking winners and losers anymore? Now, anybody who looks objectively at what happened with this Disney thing knows that that's not why Disney lost their special tax exemption. Now, this is also really weird because one of the other things that not a lot of people know about Disney gives the preponderance of their political donations to Republicans, specifically MAGA Republicans. They literally gave like $100 million to Trump's campaigns, and they gave like $1.4 million to Biden. So for Republicans to be attacking Disney, I mean it's crazy, But this is what happens if this is the lesson that's being delivered here is, and I think this is a lesson we're going to see more of now because one of the things that's easy, when times are easy, it's easy to be distracted by things that maybe don't matter so much. And I'm trying to be sensitive in how I say this, but when you have money flowing in and times are good and goals are being easily met and everything seems to be falling your way, life gets a little boring without some adversity to keep your attention. And I know that sounds terribly, like it sounds terrible to anybody going through adversity, right? Like, life's boring if you don't have some adversity, But it's true, right? So this is why you see these celebrities that get so unhinged and then they do stupid. Like, look at this Johnny Depp trial. What a train wreck. What an absolute, not just him, the Amber Heard chick. I mean, I just stopped paying attention to it because I'm like, I could get this on Jerry Springer. Like, this is some crazy stuff. A normal, rational adult, either one of them would have exited this relationship a long time ago. They're both completely nuts, it appears. Wow. But, crazy attracts crazy? I don't know. So, this thing with Disney, the executive is out after being there for 3 months. And the problem is with this, this all happened in 3 months? Like, he did this by himself? No. Disney's going to have some tough times ahead, and there's a lot of companies that are having tough times. Netflix now is cutting 9% of its workforce. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Robinhood is cutting 9% of its workforce. Netflix is laying people off. Amazon lost just a complete boatload of money, like unimaginable amounts of money. Apple had their best quarter ever, but then warned that next quarter ain't going to be like that because we can't get stuff. So their stock went down. So times aren't so easy anymore. It's not like you can just take your money and throw it into a high growth stock and watch it multiply by a factor of 25%. Now you actually have to pick the winners. You have to figure out which companies are going to be successful. What is success? And this is where things get a little muddy, because Disney was being pulled into the realm of stakeholder capitalism. Stakeholder capitalism is not capitalism, but whatever. We throw words around so that it makes things seem normal. Stakeholder capitalism means that the responsibility of a company is not just to make a profit. The responsibility of a company is also to advance society's overall objectives and goals. Now, who defines those objectives and goals is kind of ambiguous. But basically what it is companies should advance political agendas or cultural agendas as well as making a profit for their customers. In fact, the two things might be equally important. So a company making no profit but doing great work, like Twitter, for example, could be celebrated as a successful company, even though they're losing money. Which you can get away with when money is, when printer go burr, Fed's printing money and everything's going great and times are rolling fast, you can get away with that for a while. But then when things start to tighten up, when we start to see that natural business cycle of adversity hit, a lot of these initiatives, the stakeholder stuff, these are the companies that are going to lose money. These are the Netflixes, the Disneys, the Robin Hoods. These are the companies that have some aspect of their business that is a problem. So Netflix was the first time they lost subscribers ever, right? Do you know that only like 30% of the population streams at all? That means 70% of the TV viewing population either has cable or over-the-air TV or doesn't watch TV at all. 70% of Americans don't stream. What that tells me is that is a huge market potential. Sometimes I sit down and I think about it. It's like when I'm looking at growth year over year for our company, and I think, my gosh, I know the services that we provide are better than what you get at the box stores. I know that they're priced actually lower now than what you get at the box store, which is mind-blowing. Why don't we have more customers? Why is it in a city the size of Omaha, we have 20,000 customers instead of 200,000 customers? Why? Do we not have enough locations? Do we need to put more locations around town? Would we actually see an increase in profitability by putting more locations across town? Or would we just cannibalize the Burke Street location or the Papillion location by throwing another location somewhere in Omaha? These are all the questions that we ask ourselves because we're not stakeholder capitalists, we're capitalists. We want to provide an outstanding good or an outstanding service at a reasonable price that people will exchange their dollars for. So we gain dollars and we provide service, and everybody walks away from the exchange feeling satisfied and happy. That's what we want to do. That is success to us. But in stakeholder capitalism, success is also measured in your carbon footprint or your diversity, the DEI, diversity something or other, and inclusiveness. Basically how many women do you have on the board of directors? How many people of Native American descent? How many transgender people do you have? I mean, it takes humanity and divides it into these little boxes and then sets the little boxes about to fight among each other. You want to know, I don't care if you're transgender or gay or what color your skin is or what your religion is. I don't care. That doesn't matter because I'm here to provide you with a product or a service. I'm here to make your computer dance. That's what we do. Has nothing to do with any of those other things. You used to be able to say if your money is green, it doesn't matter, right? Well, now, if the plastic swipes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to serve people, as in human beings. We don't get too many dogs and cats coming in with computer problems. So that is the model that when times get tough, the businesses who understand they are not there to make a difference in the world. Let's look at Chick-fil-A, for example, because this is an example when I look at Disney and I'm like, is it okay for a government to slap down a private corporation because they disagree with their politics? Look at Chick-fil-A. Delicious chicken sandwiches, good food. I did not grow up with Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A was something my wife introduced me to when I was in the South. I'm like, this is a pretty good chicken sandwich. And then they came to Omaha, and I remember it was exciting that we're finally getting a Chick-fil-A. Now they're everywhere, right? And the lines, oh my gosh, at lunchtime, they're around the block. It's like you don't go there for lunch unless it's like 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock. You don't go at noon. You just don't. When you're traveling, Chick-fil-A is the one place you can stop and every kid in the car can get something they like. And the funny thing is it's all chicken. It's wow. But the owners of Chick-fil-A, it's a privately held corporation, and the owners of Chick-fil-A are Christian. Chick-fil-A is not open on Sunday. Sunday is the Sabbath. It's a day of rest. We're not going to make our employees work on the Sabbath. Chick-fil-A is... They donate their money. They donate their time. They hire certain types of individuals, right? You're not going to stay at Chick-fil-A very long if you don't work hard or if you don't care about your customer. They have a way of finding kids to work that care. It's amazing. And once in a while, you'll see someone at Chick-fil-A that doesn't care, but you won't see them next time you come through because they just don't thrive in that environment. When you're surrounded by people who care, they just don't thrive. Would it be okay for the state of California to say Chick-fil-A's long lunch lines are an impediment to traffic, and so because the company is not doing enough to reduce the length of those lines or move them out of the way more quickly, they're creating a traffic hazard. Therefore, we are going to tax Chick-fil-A to increase the thoroughfares around their restaurants. That's real. That actually happened. So is it okay for a government to single out a corporation and go after that one corporation for something? And like I said, if you're getting a special exemption and someone is taking your special exemption away, I'm not sure that's technically going after you because you were getting something you probably shouldn't have had in the first place. This is one of the core concepts that comes back to. Schrock used to go after government contracts. We used to try to get, the city of Lincoln had some software they wanted built. We would bid on the contract, and they'd say, "You guys never bid on anything. Why don't you bid on more things?" We're like, "We don't want to do business with you." And they're like, Well, heavens, why? Why would you not want to do business with the city of Lincoln or Lancaster County or the city of Omaha? I'm like, well, because it takes a committee to make a decision. It takes 6 months to make the decision. You expect us to provide the goods and services and not get paid for 90 days. And then I have to go through a bidding and presentation process to get the sale. And 9 times out of 10, I don't get the sale. So what that causes me to have to do is to elevate my bid each time so that the 1 time out of 10 makes up for all the work I did in the other 9. Meanwhile, you know what people don't want to do anymore? You know what computer repair shops don't want to do anymore? They don't want to help individual people. It's getting harder and harder to find computer repair stores that serve individual people. Talk to the people in Grand Island about this. I mean, who is it that's always on me to open a shop in Grand Island? You know, because every computer shop wants to service businesses. They want the big fish. They want the clients that are going to pay them every month for doing very little work. They want the government jobs. We don't go after those anymore. It's not worth it. It's not worth the money. Not even the bids are worth it. Not even when it's like, hey, we want 17 Panasonic Tough Books, go. That's not even worth it. They make the technology for bidding is so antiquated. You know, download 15 PDFs, write a proposal, put it in a specific format. You know, it's a bid. Can't you just have a page on your website where you say, this is what you say, I can't substitute, so I'm obviously selling that exact item. Here's my price, submit bid. Why can't I do that? Why do I have to go through all this paperwork? You know, anyway. So I'm sure, you know, and then of course you got companies like Dell that, you know, because these bids are only supposed to go to local companies. So Dell opens up a local office in Lincoln. They employ like 5 people, and then they're a small business all of a sudden because it's a subsidiary. And they can bid on all the contracts, and they have the power of Dell behind them, so they get the contracts. So what's the point of a company like Schrock, a measly little $3 million a year company, going after these contracts? What's the point? Well, there isn't a point. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my employees' time. You know, so let's just not and say we did. And as a result, you know, out-of-state companies come in and get these bids. You know, the one time that we actually went in and bid a contract, they ended up no bidding it because they didn't like any of the bids because they all required them to stop using Internet Explorer. And they no bid the entire contract over that. And, you know, I was a little naive on this project. We named it the Basils Project for what we were going to do. But we were going to completely automate all of the permitting for the city of Lincoln. So if you do HVAC, if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, you have to get your permit every year to do your work, and you have to re-up your permit. Well, we literally said, well, if we're going to write a piece of software that allows people to submit their continuing education online, that allows them to do their permitting, to apply for their permit online, save a payment method so they can have a recurring charge every year that just renews their permit as long as all their requirements are met, why do we need the people in the office anymore? Question, are you still going to accept cash payments or is it all card? Answer, no cash payments, no check payments. Okay. Why do you need a person in the office to take cash and check then? Maybe you need 1 person. Maybe 2 in case that person gets sick. Do you need 5? Well, we have Bob over here. He looks over every permit before it goes through to make sure everything is in line. We're building software that doesn't allow you to submit the permit unless you submit all the supporting stuff properly. We don't need Bob anymore. And that's the problem. You know, you get us involved in something like that, and we're going to find a way to make it run efficiently and smoothly and cheaply and securely. Because anytime you stick a human in a software puzzle, they screw everything up. Alfonso gives me a piece of software. He says, Thor, it's ready. You take a look. It's amazing stuff. And I go to the report button, and I click it like 100 times. And Alfonso's like, why would you do that? I'm like, because it broke when I did that. But why would you do that? Because somebody's going to do that. All right, I fix it. You know, it's like somebody's going to break it. So, you know, that's what we do at Schrock, but that's not the way government works. So we're just not compatible. It's not worth it. 2 different cultures, right? We're not in the stakeholder culture. Does that mean that we're evil Rockefeller capitalists that only care about a profit? No. we still do things that are important, that we think are important. I mentioned our recycling last week. Recycled the equivalent weight of a circus elephant of e-waste last year. Way more than we produce. Why do we do that? We don't make money recycling. It costs us money, actually, especially with fuel prices the way they are, because we have to move all the stuff. They used to pick it up. They don't do that anymore. Now we have to take it to the recycler. So we bought trucks. Now we have truck payments. And all this. We don't make money recycling. But it's important for us to make sure that we are having a net positive impact on our industry. One of the ways that we can do that, and it's revenue neutral. We don't make money doing it, but we're not spending a ton of money either, because the money that comes in from the recycling, we get a little bit of money for like the metals and stuff like that. Put that toward the truck payments, cover the labor to sort everything and clipping the cables and doing all the stuff you have to do to prep the stuff for recycling, and you break even. So it's a break-even enterprise. During the slow season, it gives my guys something to do. It does good work for the ecology, keeps stuff out of the landfills, especially in Nebraska where we're concerned about our groundwater. It's a win all the way around. It makes sense for everybody. It makes sense for the capitalist. It makes sense for the community. It makes sense for the ecology. Let's do it. We looked into putting solar panels on the roof of the Lincoln Service Center. And we figured out when we had a 3,000 square foot service center, if we covered the entire roof in solar panels, we would have, on sunny days, we'd have enough power to run the service center in real time off solar. On non-sunny days, in other words, we wouldn't be able to go completely solar, even with a battery to store it. It wasn't going to work. The cost of the solar panels was something like $47,000. The expected life of the panels was 8 years before they were non-usable. And it's not like they're perfectly usable and in 8 years they stop. There's a curve to it. As they get weathered, they become less efficient and they provide less energy. So you have to replace them or do whatever. So basically your energy expectation is between 4 and 5 years before it starts to tail off. We weren't going to be able to save enough electricity in 4 to 5 years to cover the cost of the panels. So we didn't do it because it doesn't make sense. So as times get tougher, I think you're going to see a lot of companies refocusing on the core of what they're there to do. And what they are there to do is to provide a good and a service, or if you're a publicly traded company, to provide a return to shareholders. That is the only reason that you exist. Which is why I thought this stuff that the Twitter board said was just mind-boggling. Like, the managers and employees of Twitter set the rules and the board does not interfere in that. The board of directors does not direct. There are no consequences. There are no, we'll fire your ass. Nothing. We just let them do what they do. They pay Twitter was paying, so one person was responsible. One person was responsible for spiking the Hunter Biden laptop story, as well as the entire culture of shadow banning at Twitter. She makes $17 million a year. One person. I would bet you money that her job is out the door the second Elon takes over that company. We don't need her anymore. Gone. 17 million saved. Woo! Private industry, baby. Twitter be making money now. It's amazing. So I've been ranting for a while. Let me look at the comments and see what you guys want to talk about rather than me just kind of going to town in here. But yeah, Ron got me started on that with that Disney comment. See what I mean about not having a plan? I just go all over the place. Let's see. Greetings, Mark. How do I temporarily disable the touchscreen feature? Okay. There isn't a really easy way, Mitch, to temporarily disable the touchscreen, but the way that I would do it, I'm assuming you're running Windows 11. This works on Windows 10 also. But if you right-click on the Start menu, so the little square that you click on to get the Start menu to pop up, instead of left-clicking on that, which is what you would normally do, I'd like you to right-click on it. And this is going to create a context menu that pops up. That context menu is going to have an item called Device Manager. So if you right-click on that Start menu and then left-click on Device Manager, we'll do it here with you, it's going to open up the Device Manager. Woo! Inside the Device Manager, I'm going to make sure to find out where this one is at. It's not under Display Adapters. I have a touchscreen on my computer here as well. Yeah, it's turned on. Let's see here. Where is that at? Basically, you're just going to disable the touchscreen device. It's not under display adapters. Human interface devices, maybe? Let's see. Touchpad. Nothing there. Wow, where is it? Nice, another pointing devices. Nope, not there. I've done this for my wife's computer before. Why can't I find this? This is really weird that I can't find this. Well, basically, you just want to right-click on the touchscreen and disable it. There's Precision Touchpad, the Bluetooth device. Oh, here it is, HID compliant touchscreen. So it's going to be under Human Interface Devices, HID compliant touchscreen. If you right-click on that, you can say Disable Device, and it will disable just the touchscreen portion of the laptop. The screen will still work just fine like normal, but the touchscreen will not. When you want to re-enable it, you just go back through the same process. You right-click on it again, but instead of selecting Disable, it'll now say Enable. You just select Enable. So hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, let me know. Winston, good to have you. Thanks for the audio check. Mike's here. Cheryl's here. Good to have you guys. Dean, Steve. Wow, we got a pretty good 73 people watching right now. Wow. I received an email the other day from a friend. Without thinking, I just clicked the link. It sent me to a news website. Got back out, saw that his email address had been spoofed, and immediately ran the malware on Sophos. What do you do if you accidentally click on a link? Well, here's the thing. If you clicked on that link and you were running Sophos, any attack that it tried to do on your computer was stopped by Sophos. The second thing is clicking the link establishes you as a mark. So you've clicked the link once, and they probably logged that you clicked the link, and so now that could have just been a gateway email to see if you were susceptible to clicking on links. For example, let's say I sent you an email from Capital One. You may or may not have a Capital One card in your wallet. But I'm going to send you an email and say, there's been unauthorized activity on your Capital One account. Transactions have been declined. Please click here to review the transactions and secure your account. So you click that. And it takes you to what appears to be the Capital One website. Looks just like it. You type, well, usually my stuff is saved here, dang it. So I type my email address in, and I type in my password, and I click sign in. And the screen refreshes, and I'm back at the Capital One website, but it didn't sign me in. But now my password and stuff is saved, so I click sign in again, and it signs me in. Okay, there's no information about any problem with my account. This is odd. Okay, so what just happened? You got the email, you clicked the link, you went to a fake Capital One website. On the fake website, your stuff wasn't saved because it's not where you normally go. You typed in your username and password. You just gave the bad guys your Capital One username and password. When you clicked login, obviously they didn't have anything for you to log into because they were scraping your password. So it just redirected you to the Capital One website where you just assumed you typoed something wrong or it didn't work, but now it's saved because this is where you normally go. And you click sign in, and it signs you in, and there was never a problem with your account in the first place. So this is one of the things with email, you can never trust the link. You always have to, if you get an email from Capital One saying there's a problem with your account, you go yourself to the Capital One website and log into your account and see if there's a problem. And if there's no problem, you delete the email. I got a call the other day. So I had my appendix out like a year and a half ago. And they gave me the option to finance it out with no interest. I'm like, well, if there's no interest, why wouldn't I? So I just made monthly payments on it until it was done. Well, apparently my card expired and the last $30 payment didn't go through or something stupid. And this debt collection agency is calling me, right? And they don't ever leave a voicemail. They just say, call us back at this number. I'm like, yeah, screw you. I'm not going to call you back. Delete. So finally one day this number calls, and I'm like, they keep calling. So I just answer the phone. I'm like, what? Because I figure it's one of these places like, hey, does your business need a loan? I get like 10 of those calls a day. And she's like, well, is this Mr. Schrock? I'm like, yes, it is. She's like, well, we're calling to collect a debt. I'm like, oh, great, okay. She's like, I need you to confirm your address for me. I'm like, I'm not telling you my address. Well, then you could confirm your social security number. I'm not going to give you, I don't know you. I'm not giving you anything. Why don't you confirm who you are to me? I don't even know who you are or why you're calling me or what is this debt that I supposedly owe? Well, sir, I can't give you details about the debt until I confirm your identity. Yeah, well, you're not going to get any confirmation. I mean, well, we're going to send you a letter, sir, and you'll get it in the mail. Good for you. So they send a letter, and sure enough, it was like $30. I'm like, really? Really? You couldn't just send the letter first? So, I did the online payment for $30. Get out of here. Paid it off and whatever. But yeah, so I mean, as a general rule of thumb, you just have to assume distrust now. It's really sad. You have to do that. All righty. Good to have you, Aaron. All right. Joe says, an iPhone. Do I need two? I'm assuming you're asking if you need protection, like antivirus on your iPhone, and the answer is yes, you do. Every iPhone, every Android device, every iPad, every PC, every Mac, every Linux computer needs to have Sophos on it, or some equivalent to Sophos at that level with what's going on in the world right now. Yeah, Joe, iPhone users definitely need protection, 110%. I felt bad because it seems like I was knocking iPhone users every single week with a new vulnerability. And there are new vulnerabilities for iPhone and Android every week. So last week I chose to focus on an Android one instead, so I was spreading the love, It's not that there weren't any iPhone vulnerabilities last week or this week. It's just that I chose not to cover them. So yes, definitely have protection on those devices. In fact, we make it even cheaper for those devices. It's only $65 to install it on an iPhone or a tablet. So it's even cheaper on a mobile device than it is on the sale price. Do you have secure router in the Papillion location? Secure router? I'm not sure what you mean to it, if I have a secure router. We have a router in the Papillion location. Oh, are you asking if we have if we sell routers in the Papillion location? If that's the question, we have routers in all of the locations. And in each of our locations, we do have a router. It is secured. It's running AI as well. And in the Omaha location, where our Schrock desk is run from, we actually have a hardware firewall in place just to make sure nothing gets through there that shouldn't get through there. It's Bill in Grand Island. Bill is the one in Grand Island always asking me to open a service center there. He's like, this is your monthly request. All right, at the Berkshire meeting, Warren and Charlie poo-pooed Bitcoin. Your thoughts? Well, maybe they were a little, I don't know, upset about being called the gerontocracy. This is one of the things that's gonna. I'm sure people poo-pooed the automobile at first, especially people in the buggy whip industry. And I think that was the point of the Bitcoin conference. You have a lot of people who have established careers, made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, learned a lot of lessons in an existing infrastructure that maybe it's done. So modern monetary theory has really screwed things up. I would encourage you, if you have not read anything about what modern monetary theory is or what it says, it's not just we can print money for whatever we want. In fact, it really, when you hear people saying crazy things in the news like the answer to inflation is printing more money, and you're looking at that and you're like, classic economists are like, are you stupid? Or the answer to inflation is higher taxes. So California is going to raise the gasoline tax because they need to pull more money out of the economy to control inflation. Fewer dollars chasing more goods, you see. It's the opposite of inflation. So modern monetary theory says the government can print as much money as it wants because it has a monopoly on the currency. Inflation can become a problem, but if it does become a problem, we solve that with taxation. We pull money out of the economy again because all the money that we're printing is going to pool at these rich billionaire companies. So we raise taxes on the rich billionaire companies to pull the money back out of the system, and that slows inflation. Except they always tax everybody. They don't just tax the rich billionaire companies that are getting tons of money. Or so Amazon had like a $13 billion loss or something in the first quarter. Do you really think they're going to pay taxes this year? How much money would they have to make to offset that loss? How many years can you carry that loss? I mean, this is why large companies don't pay taxes. They don't want to pay taxes. They'll open up 10 more warehouses. Whoop, we got a loss. We built a lot of warehouses. Took a financial loss this year. Cemented our ability to deliver goods within 2 days, though. So we acquired 50% increase in market share. but we lost money. Aw, shucks. The second they flip the switch, they're making money. The second they flip the switch. But why would they flip the switch when they can keep taking market share, especially in a market that's difficult for smaller companies to operate in, and flip the switch later and have it mean even more? So, I mean, this is, I'm not saying that's evil. That's business. That's playing the system. That's, don't hate the player, hate the game. It's like, you guys set up this game to work this way. People play the game. A flat tax would be a lot easier, where it's like, how much money did you make? Here, or how much money did you do? Here's your percentage, there's your tax, go. There you go, done. Everyone pays their fair share. The problem is it's not about fair or share. Learn about modern monetary theory. It'll blow your mind how wrong it is, how just inherently, and we're all following it. The Fed is following modern monetary theory. The EU is following modern monetary theory. Japan is following modern monetary theory. We are a world following this crazy monetary theory that's going to blow up. Now, when it does blow up, that is going to be a singular event that Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, me, or anybody has never seen before. Never seen before. It could make like the Great Depression crash look like a joke. I remember someone describing to me once that, everyone looks at the Great Depression as an event in the stock market, like it crashed and then it was crashed. Oh no, it crashed like an airplane. It's either flying or it's crashed. But that's not how it happened. So there was huge volatility swings. Sound familiar? Where you'd have people make a ton of money in a day. Make $100 in a day and then lose $500. And then make $400 and then lose $600. And then make $500 and lose $700. So the trend line is down, 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 down. But over a 1, 2, 3 day period, a week, you had some weeks that ended up and some weeks that ended down. So if you were just following the headlines in the newspaper, it didn't look like a crash at all. It just looked like really a volatile market. Now, this is what's blowing my mind right now. We're talking about volatility in stocks being crazy right now, right? 1,000-point drop on the Dow. Do you know what Bitcoin did? It moved 2%. I mean, what's a 1,000-point drop in the Dow percentage-wise? I don't know, but what happened to Bitcoin being this nasty, volatile thing that you couldn't count on, that would fly all over the map? Where the stock market is now the thing that's flying all over the map, and it's having correlations with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is correlated to the NASDAQ, unfortunately, because so many companies in the NASDAQ bought Bitcoin, so that when they're having a crappy quarter, they need to sell something, they can sell some Bitcoin. And then that puts Bitcoin in the market. The truth of the matter is, though, there's not a lot of Bitcoin in the market floating around right now. Exchanges are at record lows. Now, one of the things, there's a cycle to Bitcoin, just like there is to everything in life. The cycle to Bitcoin is based on halvenings. So every so many blocks, which is roughly every 4 or 5 years, the value, the amount of Bitcoin that miners get when they successfully solve a block, when they secure the blockchain, is cut in half. So when a halvening happens, all the equipment you have in your mine, mining Bitcoin, becomes 50% less effective overnight. Boom. Overnight. So your old equipment gets turned off because it's not cost efficient to run anymore. You have to buy new equipment now to get in on, to replace your older equipment. So there's all this expense, and there's an economy around this. And what we're seeing right now is I'm able to buy used miners at lower and lower prices the closer we get to the halvening, because those used miners are going to be worth 50% less the day after the halvening in 2024-ish. So why is it that Bitcoin is suddenly not so volatile? Well, before halvenings in the cycle, Bitcoin drops. It usually drops going into the halvening, and then for a few months after the halvening it stays low, and then we see a rocket cycle where it just goes to the moon. It's happened every single halvening, the same exact way. So when I'm buying equipment right now, normally I don't spend my Bitcoin. Right now I'm buying equipment with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin could go down to $24,000 before the cycle snaps again. So if I can utilize my Bitcoin at 40,000 to replace equipment that I have to replace anyway to generate more Bitcoin before the halving, that makes sense. Follow? So yeah, there's a cycle to everything. So how do I feel about the Berkshire meeting where they're poo-pooing Bitcoin? You know what? The world is big enough to have more than one opinion on things. Maybe they're right. You know, you don't get as rich as Warren Buffett by being, consistently wrong. However, on the other hand, one thing that Warren Buffett has consistently said over his career is he invests in things that he understands. I don't think he understands Bitcoin. Especially, you're not going to hear me giving a full-throated defense to Dogecoin or to SHIB or to any of the other, as they're called in the industry, crap coins that are out there that are literally either meme coins or they're Ponzi schemes. They're completely reliant on somebody else coming along and buying the coins from you. They're completely reliant on the next bag holder, basically. Bitcoin actually I bought $40,000 of equipment with Bitcoin. I had physical equipment shipped to me, purchased with Bitcoin, without a bank involved at all. Cost me $7 to move $40,000. I can't get a wire transfer for less than $25 at my bank. They accept wires too, but I could pay with Bitcoin and save money on the transaction fee, have it completed instantaneously. I was able to, if I wire money from my bank, I have to get it in before 3 because that's the cutoff. And if I get it in before 3, there's still not a guarantee that they call me and they ask me security questions. They ask me, where did I go to college? And if I don't say UNK, I don't pass. But I never went to UNK because the system is so flippin' secure. I mean, come on, for real? Which property did you ever have association with or none of the above? Where did you go to school? And then they say UNO, UNL, UNK. And I'm like, I went to UNL. And they're like, oh, sorry, you didn't pass. We got to do it again. They asked me the same question again. I'm like, UNK? I figure it's like the joke now. The guy calls for questions. I'm like, it's UNK. And he goes, yep, that's one of the 4 questions. We got you marked for UNK already. Even the guy that calls me that asked the questions knows the question's wrong. Oh my gosh. So super secure. So anyway, when you can actually buy physical things with Bitcoin, you can transact business with it. I can't really buy a lot with Dogecoin. I mean, I can buy some basketball tickets. Maybe I'll be able to tip on Twitter with Dogecoin. Maybe that'll become... Remember when Mark Zuckerberg wanted to make the Facebook coin? And the government shut him down and said, no, you can't do that. Well, Elon didn't make Dogecoin, but Elon is considered to be the Doge father. And so, because he's the biggest proponent of Dogecoin. So if he buys Twitter and he integrates Dogecoin with it, doesn't Twitter not have its own cryptocurrency now? Would that establish Dogecoin as something along the lines of a V-Buck? If you're not familiar with that, like an in-game currency in a video game that you can use to buy things in the video game, but outside the video game it has absolutely no real-world value? Totally possible. So if you're comparing Bitcoin to Dogecoin, I agree with Warren Buffett that long-term I would not be a holder of Dogecoin or SHIB or any of these other ones. Bitcoin has an actual use case. Ethereum has multiple use cases. We're going through the birth of an industry here. The birth of an industry, there's going to be failures. There's going to be, you know how many railroad barons there were back in the day? My wife and I were watching the show on Netflix called Gilded Age. It's a pretty good show. It's a little slow to start. If you like period pieces, it's pretty good. But it's about rich people in America in the Gilded Age, where there's railroad barons and, the Red Cross is a brand new charity that everyone's getting involved with. And, just it's an interesting historical kind of piece to see. Sometimes I imagine, gosh, what it must have been like to be alive when Thomas Edison lit his first light bulb, or when, the first automobiles were seen on the street, or just the change that was around. Everything was changing. Nothing was going to be the same. So that was one of the aspects actually that contributed toward the Great Depression, was the adaptation of new technologies. All these new technologies were coming in, displacing old established technologies. I view Warren Buffett as a purveyor of old established technologies. He's a railroad guy. He sells furniture at the Mart. He owns a candy company. I mean, he's got all this assortment of companies that are good companies that provide goods and services and things that people need. Totally amazing investor. But is he positioning his company in a way to take advantage of the new technologies that are coming forward? Have you tried to shop on nfm.com? It's a little rough. All right. I have a dead UPS. I don't want to just dump it in the dumpster. Oh, of course. We recycle any computer repair equipment, Aaron. We had somebody drop like 20 of those on us in Papillion the other day. So yeah, we totally recycle those. You just bring it in anytime it's convenient for you. Just drop it off at any of our locations. We're happy to recycle it for you. Can you outline your content for the Voorhees show? That's a great question, Don. The problem with doing live radio, first of all, the fact that Scott's trusting me with his time slot, even for just one day, is huge to me. It means a lot. I'm not a professional radio guy. I mean, I do it, but this is like the during the Monster Jam and during halftime, they had motorcycle guys jumping around on ramps and stuff. And they were all like old BMX guys. They're guys that are too old to actually be on the BMX circuit anymore, but they still look like they should be. I'm that guy, right? I'm the guy on the weekends. It's like, hey, I do this radio once in a while. And Scott's like, I'm in a pinch, Thor, and I got nobody else. Can you come in? No. So he asked me to cover it, and this is a huge opportunity. I'd love to. It'll be fun. What am I going to talk about? I've got 2 hours of time, which with commercials and news and everything actually boils out to be around, 70 minutes total, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood, 80 minutes. What am I going to talk about? Well, there's a Trump rally today. We don't know what's going to happen there, so I kind of have to wait and see what the news is to cover that tomorrow. We're a week out of a political election, a primary, so I'm sure there's going to be some news surrounding that coming out. We got this. Honestly, the agricultural story is something that I would love to be able to find somebody in the industry to tell me what's going on behind the scenes. Unfortunately, I don't know. I know a lot of people at small co-ops. That's why I say I know that these small co-ops are running crap computers that they're not going to replace them on. They don't even touch them unless they break. Like literally, it's like they're a piece of equipment that's going to run in the corner forever and it's never going to break. And if it does break, then we'll get it fixed and it'll run forever again. And that's just not how life works. And then when something breaks, the piece of equipment has been there so long that somebody is retired and nobody knows what that piece of equipment actually does or if it does anything. We just leave it plugged in and hooked up because we don't know what it does. And so when it breaks and they call us in to fix it, we're like, okay, where's the server? And they're like, you're kidding me. So we'll probably talk a little bit about that story. I don't know. Inflation, I'm going to reach out to Dr. Ernie Goss and try to do a follow-up from the last segment that I did. The last time I had Dr. Goss on, he told us that inflation was not transient. He laughed. He said it's not transient. It's going to get worse. And he was 100% right. So I would love to have a follow-up with him, but it's kind of short notice, and I haven't emailed him yet. So I'm going to email him after the program today and see if he's available to come on tomorrow and just do a segment with me about what's coming next. Because I'm reading all the stuff. Like initially, it's really easy to compare this with the 1970s, but there are differences. And it's really easy to compare this to the 1920s, but there are differences. So everything is different. Specifically, the debt load is different. So we can't expect the same outcomes. Everything to happen the same way it did before. Something different is going to happen, but what? That's the big thing. What is different that's going to happen? I would love to have his opinion on how this all shakes out, like what happens, and if you can assign some kind of a timeline to that. It would be that'd be interesting radio, I think. Let's see. Okay, Richard says, Buffett honestly does not understand the technology behind Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a place just like gold, a small part of your entire investment portfolio, in my opinion. Yeah, it does. And that's the thing. I'm young enough still that, I moved early on Bitcoin. Let's put it that way. I had access to the technology and to the young people that were interested in it to tell me all about it. And I moved early on it. And as a result, Bitcoin is like 50% of my retirement profile. Not because I went out and bought like tons and tons of Bitcoin, but because I got it when Bitcoin was easy to get, and I just never got rid of it. And then it's appreciated in value since then. So as a result, I'm a little heavy on Bitcoin. So if I was a real financial advisor, they would tell me, Thor, you need to sell like 70% of this Bitcoin and invest it into like Twitter and Tesla and Amazon. And I'd say, no, I want to keep my Bitcoin. Because what am I out? If it goes to zero, what am I out? What did I put into it? Some of the newer stuff that I'm mining, I do cash some of that out to cover costs and things like that. But, if I sell it, it's just taxable now. So here's the thing. This is the new thing. Goldman Sachs just did their first Bitcoin loan. So what this is a loan secured by Bitcoin. So we talked about Elon buying Twitter and how Elon doesn't want to sell all of his Tesla shares to buy Twitter. So he goes out and he does what rich people do. He gets a loan using his Twitter shares as collateral to go buy, or his Tesla shares as collateral, to go buy Twitter. Now, Goldman Sachs just did their first loan of cash money to somebody using Bitcoin as collateral. It's a whole new paradigm, guys. Banks are willing to lend against it as an asset. Now, the bank said, if the price of Bitcoin goes down dramatically, you may have to provide more capital or more collateral, or we might call the loan. So there is this is no different than securing a loan with a load of copper or some other commodity or oil. If you're using it as collateral, well, if the value of the collateral goes down, your loan becomes questionable, right? So this is what gets me concerned, though, is once you start having these kind of loans, what does somebody who has a lot of Bitcoin take a loan out for? Well, to buy more Bitcoin, right? Or to buy equipment to mine more Bitcoin. This is what miners have been doing for the most part. Rather than selling your Bitcoin to raise cash to pay for electricity and to pay for new equipment and things like that, instead what they're doing is they're holding the Bitcoin, using it as collateral to get a loan, and then using the proceeds of that loan to pay off their expenses, betting that Bitcoin in the future is going to go to $100,000, $200,000 a coin, and by holding it for an extra 2 years here, they're going to make a ton more money. They wouldn't be wrong historically. If the historic pattern holds, they will not be wrong. But nothing happens in a vacuum, right? So who knows what's going to happen with it. Someone said this about Netflix. Netflix said 10% of their accounts share their account information. This person said, why don't they cancel that 10%? Basically, a tech company that is smart enough to protect themselves. Okay, so 10% of Netflix accounts of people share their accounts. Okay, what does this mean? You have a login, you give it to your friend, you give it to your mom, your mother-in-law, for example, and then they use that login to log their TV into Netflix as well. So how would Netflix detect this? Well, you could be multiple different IP addresses being used at the same time, right? So you have one Netflix account at your house being used. At the same time, another Netflix account somewhere else is being used. Netflix has experimented with installing nag screens saying, hey, we want to confirm that you're at home right now. Click OK on a device on your home network to acknowledge the screen. Mom calls daughter, will you click OK on your device? Daughter clicks OK on her device. OK. Now you can watch it on the screen. So there's not a really easy way to do this, because what happens if there's a family account, for example, and in the family account, my son might be at a friend's house watching on his phone, and I might be in the house watching on the network, or my son might be on his phone but not on the Wi-Fi, which puts him on a different IP address. So you see, it's actually kind of hard for Netflix to police this without upsetting legitimate customers. So, I mean, we pay for a multi-device plan so that multiple people can watch at one time. We pay extra for that. That's something you don't just get on Netflix. So yes, people share their account. Well, if you have a basic Netflix account and you share it, only one device can watch the account at a time. So if you're watching the device, your friend can't watch it, or if your friend's watching it, you can't watch it. So you get the multi-device plan, so you pay Netflix a little bit extra, and you get multiple devices. You pay them a little bit more extra, you get higher definition. And so I'm not sure that Netflix has a pricing problem here, and I'm not sure they have a sharing problem here. I don't think a 10% increase in subscribers would really solve their problem right now. I think the main problem that Netflix is having is content. So they had Squid Games, was incredibly popular. What hit has Netflix had since Squid Games? Stranger Things 2 isn't out yet. You've got there's just not any good content. And then there are some people who cancel their Netflix account over the content with shows like Cuties. A lot of people, especially evangelicals, canceled their Netflix account over that. And without any kind of compelling reason for people in that demographic to reestablish their Netflix. What religious programming does Netflix have? And why don't they have any? There's a new one called The First Passion of the Christ coming out, where Jesus is gay. I'm sure that'll bring them back. You can't fight the culture war and not alienate half your audience. Unless you're willing to provide content to both sides of the culture war, but then that means you're not a stakeholder capitalist anymore. You're just a regular old capitalist now. I don't care if you use my computers to tweet left-wing wackadoo stuff. That's your business. As long as you buy the computer from me, you're good to go. We'll make sure that computer runs. Let's see. The fake credit card emails are getting pretty good. All right. Does Sophos play nicely with VPNs? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it has no problem at all. It doesn't slow down the computer. I even leave it on while I'm gaming. It does a great job. Are you selling the routers? Who is the manufacturer? We sell TP-Link routers, TP-Link routers. They're affordable, they're safe, they're secure, they get frequent updates for their security. All in all, they're a really solid little router. We like them a lot. Let's see. Does Sophos play nicely with torrents? I've never tried. Well, maybe we have tried it with a torrent. I don't know. We used to have to, like, if we needed a copy, like if you brought a computer in and you had Microsoft Office, 2016, and you had a code but you didn't have disks, we used to have to torrent the disk so that we could get the disk and then use your code to install it. Now Microsoft makes all those downloadable through the Microsoft account. So we don't have to do that anymore. So we haven't had a torrent in a while, but we've never had an issue with torrents. More important factor, though, if you're torrenting, is making sure you have a VPN installed. Hey, Spencer. All right, research Glenn Beck and the Japanese economy. It'll scare you. I will do that. Let's see here. The Dow went down 2.77% on Friday. So it's tracking pretty equally with Bitcoin. But my point was, remember when Bitcoin was the volatility, nothing this volatile can be considered a store of value or a currency or anything. And then here you have it moving about the same as the stock market. Except, see, Bitcoin is great because it trades 24/7. So a lot of times you can look at what Bitcoin's doing the day before the market opens and you'll know what the market's going to do. Right now, Bitcoin is down 37,505. Let me double check and make sure that's current. It popped a little bit. What the heck? There we go. Let me refresh it one more time here. My phone was weird. 37.9. So it's down 1.56% over the last 24-hour period. In the last week, it's down 4.2% in the last week. It's pretty much in line with what's going on with everything else. Alrighty. When is the halving of Bitcoin going to happen? Ballpark date. Well, see, it's based on blocks, not dates. So let's see, when is Bitcoin halving? All right. It happens every 210,000 blocks, approximately every 4 years. So the reason that it's approximate is the Bitcoin network every 2 weeks adjusts the difficulty of the problems that you're solving if you're a miner based on how much effort miners are making. So if people are buying a lot of mining equipment and there's a lot of people mining, it makes the problems harder to solve, so they're solved at the same rate. So within a 2-week period, you'll have some fluctuation. It could get really hard, and then a bunch of miners stop, and then it gets really easy, and then they all come back. So that push it off a little bit. So 2024 is the rough date of the halvening from the Deltec Bank and Trust website. God. So let's see. First one is in 2012. Next one will occur sometime in 2024. So I would think that coming up to the halvening, that's why I bought this equipment that I bought now with Bitcoin. It's going to take me a year to get my Bitcoin back on the new equipment. And I'll have about a year to do it before the halvening. Then I'll have new equipment. So when the halvening happens, instead of my equipment making, the US dollar equivalent of, $35 a day, it'll make $15 a day. But it'll still be profitable, whereas my old equipment that was only making, $3 or $4 a day US dollar equivalent right now, after the halvening will be a money losing equipment. You won't want to run it anymore. So I need to get rid of that. I need to sell that equipment now while somebody else still wants it, and then get the new equipment in my mine so that when the halving happens, I still have a mine. Otherwise, if you don't continue to develop or deploy new equipment, you won't have a mine. You have about a 4-year window. So, yep, about every 4 years. All right, Aaron, I just canceled Netflix again. Had it earlier this year to watch Cobra Kai and then canceled it. Got it again in April so I could watch the movie The Adam Project. Good movie. Yeah, it was a good movie. Adam Project was one of those movies, my wife kind of dragged me into that one because I was like, I don't want to watch this. But if you do have a Netflix account and you have not watched The Adam Project, it's a really good movie. It is even if you don't like Ryan Reynolds, even if you're not a Deadpool fan, it's a really, really good movie. You should watch it. All right, last call for questions, guys, before we wrap it up here. 1 hour and 1 minute so far, so I'm starting to feel it. So tomorrow morning I'll be on KFAB's air from 9 until 11 in Scott Voorhees' slot. So if you want to listen there, I'd appreciate it. I don't know what we're going to do yet. It depends on the news. I was telling my wife I'm going to have to spend all day Sunday show prep. I'll have to buy a newspaper Monday morning and actually do my old man thing and read the paper because I don't have an Omaha.com account. I don't have a World Herald subscription because most of the stuff that you see in the World Herald doesn't, it's not worth the subscription, let's put it that way. And their website, you can trick it for a while, but then they get wise to it and then you can't look at stories anymore. So anyway, and of course the number of stories on the website is nowhere near the content that is actually in the newspaper itself. So I want to make sure I'm well prepared so that if some listener calls in with some question about current events or something, I'm not like, I live in Sarpy County, I don't know who that is. I don't I don't want to do that. But I think that if we have enough interesting stuff to talk about, that I won't have to go full compute this on you during Scott's slot. And I also won't get in trouble with the FCC or, not get invited ever again to come back, Because, we could definitely go down those roads. But, we'll see what happens at the Trump rally. Trump is rallying with Herbster today. They canceled it 2 days ago because of the weather that was coming through. And so that rally is happening today now in Greenwood. So I'm not able to attend the rally. So I kind of like to I was talking to Raj, and I'm like, should I even report? I mean, I feel like if I report on it now, I'll just be reporting what other people are reporting, and that seems kind of cheap. But I'm not there to experience it. But I can watch the live streams, I'm sure. So anyway, so we'll definitely have that to talk about, and the time goes away from me. I say my throat feels like I've been talking for an hour nonstop, but my brain doesn't. I'm like so much more that we could talk about, so many more things that we could do. Oh man. Oh yeah, I can't talk about that. I'll get in trouble. After the project is done, there will be much said. But until then, we're all kumbaya. Happy day. All right, guys, got to roll. Have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you, for those of you who are listening to KFAB tomorrow from 9 to 11, we'll talk to you then. Otherwise, we'll see you all again next Sunday for another edition of Compute This.